Iran on one side, and on the other side, the United States and Israel, it has now become clear that they have no real justification. All the reasons being presented about why this war is happening are only excuses. The reality is that this war against Iran is being fought to preserve the existing global system, the unipolar world order. The time is changing. Experts say the era of American dominance is moving toward its end, and the balance of power is gradually shifting from the West to the East. The world is moving away from a unipolar system toward a multipolar one. When the hegemony of a dominant power begins to break and a new power begins to rise, the risk of confrontation increases. On one side is Iran, and on the other side are the United States and Israel. All the arguments being made about the reasons for this war, whether it is Iran's nuclear program, regime change, or some ideological conflict, have now proven to be baseless. The truth is that this war is being fought to protect the unipolar world order. Today, I will explain the full context of this situation. We are standing at a historical crossroads where the old world order is breaking down and a new world order is beginning to emerge. To understand this transformation, we must first understand the environment in which we have been living for the past several decades. Since the end of the Second World War, the world has largely been dominated by one power, the United States. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union was also a powerful state, but the dominant global order was still shaped by America. Institutions such as the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and later the World Trade Organization were all established under this system. Even the United Nations was created within this framework. Russia and China eventually became part of this system to maintain global stability. In political terms, this entire arrangement is called the unipolar world. A unipolar world means that global politics, economics, and major decisions are centered around a single country. In simple terms, most major decisions were influenced by Washington or institutions aligned with Washington. This included Europe, the Western Bloc, the G7, and OECD countries, mainly developed nations and former colonial powers of Europe that once controlled the economies, resources, minerals, and wealth of many other nations. The central hub of this entire system was Washington. However, this system now appears to be changing. The time is shifting. Experts say the era of American dominance is approaching its conclusion, and the balance of power is moving from west to east. In discussions about this shift, a concept often mentioned is the Thucydides trap. I will explain this shortly. Until around 1992, it appeared that the United States was simply one of the two superpowers alongside the Soviet Union, but in reality, America remained the dominant power. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the United States became the sole superpower. After that, America had the ability to act almost entirely on its own. It could attack countries, intervene militarily, or carry out operations even without the approval of the United Nations. In many cases, it either acted without UN approval or exceeded the limits of the mandates it received. This context is important to understand the broader picture. As the world moves from a unipolar order toward a multipolar system, the breakdown of one dominant power's hegemony and the rise of new powers creates the risk of conflict. This idea is connected to a theory attributed to an ancient Greek historian who explained that when a rising power threatens to replace an established power, the chances of war between them increase significantly. In today's world, the United States represents the established power, while China is the rising power that is challenging it in many areas. Within this global competition, Iran occupies a highly strategic position. It acts as a geopolitical pivot. China is not trying to become the sole dominant power replacing the United States. Instead, China promotes the idea of a multipolar world where power is shared among multiple nations. Iran's importance is not only due to its population, territory, or natural resources. Its true strength lies in its geographical location, its independent oil power, and its political stance since the Islamic Revolution over 40 years ago, a stance that opposes the existence of a single global superpower. Geographically, Iran sits at a crossroads connecting three continents, Asia, Europe, and Africa. Although Iran itself is part of Asia, its borders and sea routes make it a bridge between major global regions. To the north, it connects with Russia and Central Asia. To the west, through Turkey and Iraq, it connects toward Europe. Through Iraq and Syria, it can reach the Mediterranean Sea, linking it with Europe and Africa. To the south lies the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical maritime passages in the world. A large portion of global oil supplies passes through this region. When natural gas is included, the share becomes even larger. To the east, Iran has access to Pakistan and India, connecting West Asia with South Asia. Because of this location, Iran holds enormous geopolitical significance. This is not merely about military dominance, but geopolitical importance. For this reason, the United States and its allies have long tried to maintain influence over Iran. Whoever controls Iran gains influence over global energy supply routes. Before 1979, Iran was ruled by the Shah, who was closely aligned with the United States. However, after the Islamic Revolution in 1979, Iran declared its independence and refused to follow American directives. Since that time, a long and continuous rivalry between the United States and Iran has existed, often expressed through sanctions and political pressure. Iran's role in the current global transition is also important for countries like China and Russia. China requires large amounts of oil and gas to sustain its industrial economy, and Iran possesses major reserves of both. The United States has tried to weaken Iran through sanctions so that it cannot supply energy to China, or so that America could control those resources itself. In response, Iran has made long-term agreements with China, providing oil at favorable prices while China helps Iran survive economically. China acts cautiously because the unipolar world order still exists, and it seeks to avoid direct confrontation that could lead to a larger war. Similarly, Iran is strategically important for Russia. After the Ukraine war, Western sanctions blocked many of Russia's routes to global trade. Russia therefore developed a new trade route through Iran, known as the International North-South Transport Corridor, which connects Russia to India and other markets. If Iran were to fall under American influence or experience regime change, both Russia and China would face serious strategic challenges. For this reason, Iran today stands like a barrier between those who want to preserve the old global order and those who want to create a new, more balanced system. This transition is extremely dangerous because the major powers involved possess nuclear weapons. In the past, when one power declined and another rose, major wars often occurred. But today, a direct war between the United States on one side and China and Russia on the other could escalate into nuclear conflict, which would mean catastrophic destruction for the entire world. Iran itself is not a nuclear power, yet it has the ability to influence the global balance between nuclear powers. The United States is trying to regain control over Iran so it can use its resources and geography to weaken China and disrupt Russia's economic strategies. Iran, however, has adopted a policy of resistance. It has also built alliances across the region known as the Axis of Resistance, including groups and partners in Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. Together, they create a significant obstacle to American influence. For this reason, the United States continues to pressure and confront Iran directly. When America claims to support democracy in other countries, critics argue that its real objectives are often geopolitical, economic, and military interests. Iran's struggle, according to this perspective, should not be seen merely as the conflict of a single country. It is viewed as part of a broader resistance against a global system that many developing countries believe has long favored wealthy nations. Today, much of the world's economic decision-making power still lies with institutions such as the World Bank and the IMF, which critics say are heavily influenced by the United States and Europe. Iran challenges this structure and aligns itself with emerging groups such as BRICS and the broader Global South. Many countries in the Global South sympathize with Iran's stance but hesitate to openly confront the United States because the unipolar system still holds significant power. Iran argues that every country should have the right to make its own decisions without a single global power imposing its will on others. Supporters of Iran's position see its resistance as a symbol of independence. Iran has also tried to demonstrate that a country can survive decades of sanctions and pressure while still developing its military technology, missiles, drones, and electronic warfare capabilities. The reality remains that the United States and Israel possess some of the most powerful militaries in the world, and America still holds immense technological, financial, and military power. However, Iran claims that its strategy of resistance shows that even powerful dominance can be challenged.